because a lot of the time, especially when it comes to people, they'll find a way to somehow get under your skin or say something that's gonna, trigger you or whatnot. And the very complicated part of this side of this exercise is to actually find a sense of like a baseline where you come back to, so you don't necessarily let that situation affect you so much that you go deep. You just maintain. Yeah. Shit. I didn't need that right now. I didn't need that phone call right now. Why the hell are you, trying to bring this energy to me when, that's not what I'm conveying to you. That applies to work, relationship, love, etc., etc., etc. And there's another thing that we have to work on is expectation, because you see a lot of the time we do things out of a good heart, willing to impact that person's life in the most positive way, and we realize that soon enough these people, when they are empowered, they're back on their feet, or whatever is going on, that they finally get themselves back up. You can't expect them, and as a matter of fact, it's proven that they will stray away from you. They will no longer. You were there as a crutch, you were there as a support, you were there for whichever reason you had to serve. You serve that purpose, and that's where it's at. And that can be very frustrating for somebody who has a tendency to give a lot. And that's where you have to work on yourself, understanding where you just set the limit and be like, look, this is not fucking okay. This is not going to happen. I will no longer let myself be absorbed by a situation upon which I really have no business getting involved in the first place. However, that does not mean that you cannot somehow provide, presence, a listening ear, or some advice as if you asked for. But a lot of the time, people don't come at you for advices. They want to vent. And so I'm dressing the picture. I'm going to get into the actual thick of it in a moment. So bear with me and stick with me as I'm, painting this whole picture for you, from my perspective again. And that's where, you come to this realization that, okay, cool. If, for example, you have committed to calling somebody every day or every 2 days, for example, and checking on them, making sure that they're good, etc., etc. The value to which you hold yourself to, the value to which you've set your standard to, is not the same as the other person you're talking to. It's not the same as the person you're helping or you're sharing time and space with. And when you understand that, that doesn't mean they're less, that doesn't mean you're more. It just means that you're on completely different, frequencies. And a lot of the time, this is the part that usually breaks my heart, but just I feel sorry for people who feel revengeful, who feel like, God's gonna punish you, it's gonna get back at you. Why? As hurt as you are, for you to wish bad upon somebody, and I'm not trying to be, moral police here, but I'm just saying, for you to be so full of yourself in a way, because you're like, well, I've done all I've done, and this is what I'm getting in return. But what did you expect in the first place? What did you expect in the first place? If you were truly, genuinely there to attend to a person, to attend to the growth of a given business or whatever it may be, it is normal that, of course, given the idea that, or starting from the concept that, you share common values, well, that person would actually understand the concept of, I got you on the next one. Oh, you know what? I won't forget that whole concept. But even that is all based on expectations. And expectations 99.9% of the time leads you to disappointment, at least from my perspective and my little experience of life. You know, I'll give an example. Adaptability. And this is really where my main reason for today's show is focused on is the singularity of one's capacity to really take their life into their own hands, understanding that once they decide to go against the grain, to go against a certain norm, established norm, they will have backlash. You will have a backlash. And the backlash will usually 9 times out of 10 come from the people nearest to you. Some of it is legit, especially if you probably get ahead of yourself. But a lot of the time, it's based on not understanding or that person lack of capacity to put themselves in your shoes to understand where you're coming from, where you are, and where you're trying to go. Because as they're listening to you talking, they're visualizing themselves in that situation with their limited perception of your perception, which is theirs, right? Because it's limited to whatever they see themselves as. So not saying that they're less or anything, but at the end of the day, there are indeed, we can't be politically correct forever. You know, there are indeed some people who are behind, you know, not behind in terms of intelligence or anything like that, but there's some people who are energetically refusing to just elevate. And that's why, you know, you always have to understand that, okay, let me adapt. Let me adapt not by, you know, undervaluing myself, but by acknowledging that this is where you are and I respect this place you're in. That's not what I'm trying to be. And that's not what I'm trying to be. That's not where I would like to be and remain. So, hey, you know what? Meet me there if you want. But either way, do you. We're cool. That's okay. We can still communicate, but it's going to be limited to the confines of, you know, this environment that we're able to communicate in and share the kind of verbiage that associates to your capacity to understand the message I'm conveying. And so when you say that, people take that to offense because it's like, oh, you're making me look or making me feel stupid. No, you're not stupid. This is the thing. It's not a question of intelligence. This has no connection whatsoever to intelligence. It is a sense of capacity to, of developing your capacity and your senses to be able to adapt, to be able to always aim at evolving. And to evolve doesn't always mean that you are divorcing something for another, even though, yes, a lot of the time it has something to do with it. But, you know, for example, people think that evolution, for example, let's say, proper business conversation here. When I got into the music industry, and feel free, by the way, to jump in the comments, you know, by the way, let me take one because I was getting into it already. Welcome. This is Monday Quality Talks. I did say that in the beginning, but I have to repeat. Please be very welcome. Make sure you press those like buttons. We need to see those likes up. It's very important. I want to see those likes up. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're liking this content. And of course, if you're able, make sure you show some love by the super chats, the super stickers, PayPal, you name it. You know, because if you're watching this as a replay, you got the description section of this video where you can find means and ways you can support this show. Which I know I have not brought to you every week as promised, but you know, you got quarantine rules anyway on Fridays, so you know, meet me halfway. and you might not necessarily realize as well. It's again, it's adaptability. It's like it's very it's demanding, you know, mentally to dissect what it is that you can say and what it is that you have to refrain from saying, because you know, not everything is good to be shared, at least at a certain given time. Right, so it's also understanding timing and dosage. But yeah, with that being said, right. So when I got discovered, you know, by the industry, the music industry, house music, etc. I was that new kid that, had created a sound for himself that was just really um, new, but at the same time, not necessarily. Because obviously, yes, I mean, I come from a school of pioneers that have influenced my sound in ways I can't even begin to describe. So, of course, there was influences of different producers that I love, from different kind of genres of music, etc. And the more I evolved as a musician, the more I adapted to my also my new sense of consuming music, producing music, and DJing that music, right? And so I went from a very hardcore underground, purist, and after commercial music, after the commerce of music, F money, but at the same time I was like, but that's conflicted in because inherently, I'm a damn. I mean, before making music, I used to cut diamonds. That was my first job, right? You know, in Belgium, in Antwerp. So I was like, and I quitted that. I left that to, fully dive into the music and literally make music my everyday bread. Which, as you can imagine, the first several years of this, journey were dire, to say the very least. So there was an interesting conflict between the different sides of me. The underground purist in me was like, yeah, fuck this, da da da. And then there was the side of me that was like, no, but I still gotta, be able to make money. And I was not. I was being caught in a loop of people and in an environment of people that were happy seeing you do evolve, but not necessarily happy to see you do really big. And because the problem is that in certain environments, unfortunately, when you it's very ghetto, right? So it's a mentality that's very ghetto. It's like, okay, the moment you blow up, it's like, yeah, but you see, the moment you're gonna blow up, you're gonna forget who you are. Like most people, right? The shit on where they came from, etc., etc. They don't, because but that's because a lot of the time people think that money or fame changes you. No, it reveals you. You're not being changed, you're being revealed. Just like when you're dating somebody and you encounter a hurdle along the way, and that situation, that challenge will reveal your true self. You have not changed, you've just not known about that side of you until you got confronted with the real life situation that will reveal it to you. So how do you adapt to that? Because that's a new set of information. It's like, shit, I didn't know I was capable of doing that. I was capable of thinking like that. And I didn't even know there was a different possibility, a different way to go about this. I knew I wanted to create that way, but I just didn't know there was a way to do it. And that way was what? That way was to understand the necessity to truly be open, truly be a learner, and humbling myself. Because you see, if you want to learn, you will not learn nothing if you're full of that ego that literally makes you a dick, and you're in no way, shape, or form capable to receive the vast wealth of knowledge that can be, poured upon you by the people that you aspire to get knowledge from, get information from.